You may have heard or read about bias in artificial intelligence in the media. But what exactly does this mean? What are the impacts, and what can we do to address them? Artificial intelligence, or AI, refers to machines that simulate some form of human intelligence, such as identifying patterns, making predictions, and suggesting decisions. They use algorithms, or instructions that humans give it through code, to carry out these tasks. Such systems may also learn from large datasets, such as people's social media profiles. Although you may not think about AI very often, it's actually all around us. It's used in your phone when you look for the best route to get to work, for the recommendations you get when you watch TV, and the search engine through which you might have found this video. AI is also used by organizations across all sectors. It can assist with tasks from assessing risk to diagnosing diseases to hiring employees. Since AI is used in such diverse ways, its impacts can vary widely. Research has shown that AI has the potential and power to be a tool for social good. It can support marginalized populations in many ways, for instance, by suggesting how to better distribute government resources, more fairly process refugee claims, and reduce racial disproportionality in the criminal justice system. However, in practice, AI can and has reinforced the bias and marginalization that already exists across society. This means that equity, fairness, and justice should be a key focus for creating AI to prevent further harms. First, it's important to understand the power that AI can have to help humans make accurate predictions and decisions. This is because AI can be explicitly programmed to follow certain instructions and requirements, while humans cannot. Human predictions and decisions may often be clouded by bias, lack of information, and uncertainty. This means that AI can be told specifically to reduce unfair or harmful outcomes, and it can be audited and changed, while it is difficult to do this for humans. For example, some researchers have suggested that if assistive AI were involved in refugee cases, it could improve decision-making by humans that tends to be uncertain and biased. In turn, this would help asylum seekers who otherwise may have been unfairly rejected. Another example is that child services departments across the United States are using AI risk assessment tools to decide which reported cases are most high risk and therefore need immediate investigation, a process which otherwise may involve a lot of time, resources, and human error. Theoretically, these tools sound great, right? Well, maybe in a perfect world, but the fact is that systemic inequality exists across our society within every institution, and technology is not removed from our social and political contexts. Many examples show that AI can create harmful outcomes for certain groups such as racialized and low-income communities, as well as women and gender-diverse people. Why? One reason is that social and economic inequality is often reflected in the datasets that we use for developing and training AI. Another reason is that these tools can be implemented in ways that reinforce such inequality and inequity. The tool used in child services mentioned previously is meant to reduce inaccurate assessment of cases to help children who are most at risk. But researchers who investigated the tool found that it uses indicators of poverty to identify high risk of abuse or harm, when in fact this is an unfair assumption. The tool is based on data that disproportionately represents low-income households because these households have been more likely to use public services. On the other hand, high-income households do not have such data collected on them. As a result, low-income families continue to be investigated at higher rates and are more subject to surveillance. Studies also show that several AI-powered facial recognition software systems do not work effectively on darker-skinned women compared to white men because the data which it was trained on did not contain a range of racialized women's faces. As a result, racialized people, and especially racialized women, are more likely to be misrecognized. This can have significant consequences for their civil liberties, as facial recognition is often used for security or policing. And recent research on Facebook's algorithmic delivery of job advertisements found that it perpetuates gender discrimination based on gender distributions in different jobs. For example, the algorithm showed a job ad for car sales associates to more men than women, while the opposite was true for an ad for jewelry sales associates. The algorithm determined which jobs men and women will be more likely to click on, depending on historical data for their gender. But this is discriminatory. Regardless of gender, people should be able to pursue the job opportunities that interest them. We face several challenges here. For one, how can we get away from biased and unrepresentative datasets and their resulting algorithms if these problems are embedded in our society? And how can we teach AI human social values such as fairness and justice, concepts which are themselves very nuanced? All machines can do is follow the instructions that we give them. So, researchers are currently working on understanding how machines can enact such values, perhaps through solutions like supervisory algorithms that check and correct for harms. However, prioritizing fairness and the prevention of harms may create a trade-off for technology companies with profits and efficiency in the short term. There are also problems around a lack of accountability. The public often does not know how AI is being used on them or what its social, political, and environmental impacts are. There are few regulations to govern this, and the tech industry has not been very welcoming to diverse groups. Decades of research show how racialized and low-income groups, as well as women and gender-diverse people, are often excluded from contributing to the very technology that affects them. This is why it's important that we continue investigating these challenges and striving for fair and just technology. Some potential actions include more regulation to ensure accountability and transparency for those making this technology, increased efforts to ensure diverse groups are leading AI creation and implementation, changing industry standards and equitable AI is prioritized by all, and continued research from all disciplines on this field so that new perspectives are always considered. Many organizations around the world are already taking action on these issues. With these efforts, perhaps we can envision a future where AI is more helpful than harmful for equity and justice.